this real quick. All right, mic test 1 2 1 2. All right, I got confirmation on my side. What's happening, Bandit? Good to be able to sit back on this. What is this, Tuesday? It's probably, what, Wednesday on your side? You're kind of like Australia. You like a day off. Yeah, it's good to hang out and chat for you with a minute. Let me make sure this is all working right. Changing mics over. All right, I got confirmation on my side. All right, let's turn this down. All right. And let me go over to this chart. Let's shut down fiat leak. All right, there we go. Let's go chart this way for now. I'm gonna jump over here. Everybody else that joined us, thank you so much for your support, your continuous support. We finally reached that 1,000 mark. Thanks to everybody and a bunch of promotions that we threw out last week and the week before. A lot of help from other supporters, and it really got us over that edge. And now we're able to be fully monetized channel. Woohoo! Congratulations to all of us. And we're ready for our next leg. We're ready to throw a lot more stuff into the stream. So we do have Bandit from XRP Bandits from, what is it, Bandit Bunkers, right? That's with us right now in the chat. So if you guys haven't yet, go over there and take a look at his channel. I'll throw a link in the chat right now. But what we're going to do, we're just going to sit back. You know, I haven't really charted XRP much lately. I do day trade full-time the U.S. stock market, and I mess around with crypto at night. And so I kind of got an overfeel of what the U.S. market's doing right now, and watching what Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin, XRP, they are, trailing each other, much like the S&P 500 and Bitcoin are trailing each other. They're not depegged yet. I do see a lot more strength in Bitcoin than I do in the overall market. We do have a conference that's happening right now in Las Vegas. I believe it's a 2 or 3 day event. So let's see what kind of movement comes of it. There is some news that is out there, which I'll drop in the Discord. The Discord, referring to the Discord, we do have a Discord here. It's for this in particular. Discord is built for the channel. So those in chat want to hang out and get to know each other a lot more, versus just sitting here in the chat. Then we have the Discord where you can go live, we can talk to each other, support each other in all different ways, talk XRP, hang out, and have a good old time. Now we do have our US stock Discord. It's our larger Discord. So once you get into the XRP Discord, if you want we want a lot more out of a Discord and learn a lot more about stocks, movements, technical analysis, and really see what others are doing in their trades. Just go ahead and ask for the link, and whether inside the chat here, or go ahead and in the XRP Discord, just ask for the link to our main Discord. But in that, there is a place for us all to get together and hang out and and go over charts or whatnot. But I do want Bandit and I, right before I restarted the stream, we were talking about where we saw the market and where it's going. So I figure I'll jump on real quick and we'll jump over to a larger time frame. This is where I'm seeing the market to starting to be positive. Okay, so what we're going to see here is much like what the S&P 500 is doing as well. If that makes any sense to anybody, you kind of like overlap. I can throw up a different charts, and I may have to go through different scenes on Streamlabs. Kind of pain in the butt, but something I need to do on the backside and have it ready and presented for you guys. It'll take a bit to do it live here. But for now, we're going to use the Blowfin charts. I do have the zigzag lines. Basically, it just helps you identify certain patterns or whatnot as you're trading. There's, remember, every technical, as far as every indicator, if you don't understand the indicator, I don't care if somebody else says it's a really great indicator, it's not going to work for you. The indicators only work for people that understand the indicators. So that's why there's so many different ones. So just because one works for me and it doesn't work for you doesn't mean it's negative, just like it's, vice versa. If one works for you and I can't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't work. So I just throw these out just to let people know exactly, hey, where are we? Are we on an uptrend, downtrend? Are we getting ready to reset to define support? Obviously, you can see every time it finishes a downward, or an upward, okay, at a certain point, then that's where it found support or resistance. So that's why I throw those out for everybody on the stream. It's a pretty simple one. Don't need to know a lot about it. But currently right now, let's go over to the daily. Let me go over to chat. Cool. All right, so on the daily here in XRP, remember, I'm not sure how many people, there's a few of us here now, but those that really know XRP, they know that what we're expecting and what's going to happen with XRP. There's nothing here in this chart that's going to tell us when that moonshot's going to happen. The only thing this is going to tell us is what's its vibe right now. Where is it? What is it moving? Where is it finding some supports and resistance? That's about it. Now that moonshot that everybody's looking for, when's it going to happen? These charts are not going to tell us. There's nothing in the past history that's going to tell us. There's so much new stuff that's happening now catalysts that we never had in the past. Okay, that we could use for strength, or weaknesses. Either which way, but I feel very positive with XRP the overall. So what we're going to see here is it's just an idea. Okay, that's all it is. It's an idea of where I see the market going right now. Okay, so let's jump over to the larger time frame. Okay, and I'm going to identify. I'm sure Bandit already, he knows what these are. These are just basic triple moving averages. I'm using the 55. The purple's the 55, the 100, or the yellow's the 100, and the green's the 200. So obviously you can see when the green line's on top of the 100, 55's on the bottom. Okay, then we're in it. That's called a death cross. Okay, so we kind of like came through a death cross. And then we got the crossing happening right here. Started going back into a golden cross. Okay, but look what's happening right here at this moment on the daily. Okay, is we're getting the 55 to cross over the 100. All right, now. So what's that giving us? That's giving us a sign that we're getting ready to go into a death cross. Anytime you see a crossing happening, see right now, if we were to zoom really into this, okay, there's so many stories that are happening inside this. Okay, you don't need all indicators to tell you stories, but they help. So what's happening is you see how it just got across. Okay, anytime you get across, so for example, this crossing is going into a death cross. Okay, it may sound weird. I'm just going to say how I look at it. Okay. That may sound a little creepy, but anytime you go in a death cross, mental thought, okay, what happens to somebody when they're dying? Okay, they give their last breath and they die, right? Well, that's what happens whenever we get the triple movings crossing. Okay, right now we're going into the death cross. So what's going to happen is the candle's going to give us the last breath. And then what's going to happen? It's going to consolidate a little bit until we get the next crossing, which will be the 55 crossing over 200 to confirm the death cross, right? So we're going to expect another little pump and then dump. Okay, so anytime we start going to crossings, you're going to get three rhythms to it. You're going to get every time we have three lines that are going to cross each other. So that's three breaths we're going to get. A little pump, a little dump, a little pump, a little dump, and then it's going to come down and try to find some resistance wherever it may be. Okay, so these really work. What I just explained right now really works on the lower time frames. I'm a momentum trader. I'm a day trader, momentum and whatnot. So what I just taught you right now, you could really use, like I say, on the 1 minute. I use them on the 5 seconds. Like I said, I'm a day trader. I'm a scalper, momentum trader. Okay, I get in, and I get out. What's happening, Jane? Good to see you. Talk about supporters, right? Bandit, Jane, 100%, dude. Golden supporter. Really do appreciate all the help and support from him. So going back to this channel here. So on the daily, okay, So now, okay, well, first let's go back to this. So I explained exactly what we're having here. We have the triple moving averages. When they cross, then we get a reaction. Okay, we're going to a death cross right now. Does this mean that we are going to go into a death cross? Okay, this is just could be a little pullback here. Well, we have another indicator down here, which is the SMI, simple moving indicator. Okay, and what it also has an oscillator. This oscillator right here in the middle, let's look at that as volume, okay? Or you could look at it this way. When it's on this, see how we have a middle line? When we're above the middle line, okay, well, let's just say we're going bullish, okay? And when we go below it, we're going bearish. So seeing how, if you recognize in the past how the SMI works, okay, if it, on the way down, if it doesn't, I want to call this the belly. If it doesn't catch support on the belly, then we know we're coming back for a reset. So when do you want to buy? You want to buy here, right? Inevitably, you want to sell up on top, okay? So, but naturally what it does, and I see it more often than not, is if we lose the support here, then we're coming down all the way to the bottom. On the way back up, if we can't pull enough support, it's going to consolidate at the belly, okay, and try to get a little lift off. It tried right here and it said, you know what, we're not worth that yet. So we're going to pull yourself back down again. So understanding where you're at with SMI, okay, which side of the line, obviously you can see the red line. When it's on top of the green line, then that's where we are bearish, okay? It's in a death cross. Same thing. Look at the crosses here. Same thing here. Call them a death cross. Until we find support, it's not going to come back up. So look at where these positions are, the crossings. Looking where the oscillator's at, okay? Knowing that on the way up, if it can't sell itself more than it's worth, then it's going to come down, and hopefully we catch at the belly and then ride it back up again. If we can't, it's going to drop back down. Try to find support here at the belly, run it a little bit till it builds up momentum, and then we're going to pop again. So let's go forward back over to here. See what I'm talking about? What's happening here is that we're coming back down, finding that support, that consolidation force, okay, and we're going to see if we can get it. We can get it for a lot more now this time, okay. See if it's worth a lot more. Do I think we're going to come right back down to the bottoms, the prior lows? See that green line? No, I don't. We're finding support right here, okay. This is a continuous uptrend if you were to look at this in a longer time frame. So am I going to let this little crossing right here scare me? Nah, I don't think so. Not me personally. I don't, okay? And we're going to see that as we start walking towards the future, start walking closer on the time frames, okay? So right now, what I'm seeing on the daily is I'm seeing that we have support. We do have a crossing to be concerned about, but since we have this crossing happening, that's what's giving us this green line. That's holding the support right here, okay? Now I want to know what's going to happen next, right? Okay, so daily, our conclusion is we got consolidation here. We're trying to hold and find support. If not, then we're going to be coming back down. If we were to come back down to the bottom right here, then we're looking at somewhere around the 223 area, okay? I'm looking to retest newer highs, but 223 for the low, newer highs for the top. Let's jump over to the 4 hour. As I do that, let's go over to the chat real quick. We're all in almost 5 years now. Yeah, it's been a long time since, I appreciate all your guys' open arms and all that too. I wasn't really part of the XRP community at first, not as long as everybody else has. And I brought this channel as one of my projects, and something I really truly loved. It was brought to my attention. XRP was brought to my attention to look in depth in what it's about by a good friend named Charles, and he's in our Discord. He has all kinds of knowledge on XRP. So I said, hey, you know what? Well, let's go ahead and let's open up a channel and let me really dive in and follow this. It's like it's love, And ran into Rick over at Chimps XRP, and I never even knew Chimps XRP. It came across my algorithm, and saw what they were doing over there, and got to meet Rick and Annie and Spanky, and they came on over and they showed all kinds of support, and everybody all came in. What a great group you guys really do have. So thank you all for opening your arms and accepting Bullfrog and TA a part of your guys' daily go to XRP type things. But yeah, I just want to take a moment and say hey, thank you. I appreciate everybody that's over there, there's not one person that I personally dislike or whatnot. So I'm going back over to the chat real quick. I think it's been 1 afternoon. Grateful for all of you. But yeah, thanks, Bandit. I really do appreciate it. And you know what? I know there's a time and place for everything, but I hope everybody's safe over there where you're from. I understand there's a lot of battles going on, a lot of things that should just be moved past a lot of people, and especially in today's era. But we can go in depth about that later. So also, I don't know whoever's in here as well. You don't see me a lot in other people's chats and stuff. I stay in my lane. I stay over here. I go over to other XRP channels, to see, how they're doing type deal. I don't go into chat at all. I hit the like, but over here at Bullfrog and TA, all XRP channels, all crypto channels, are welcome. And we're here to support you. So if you need a little extra help, just go ahead and say, hey, Bullfrog, man, can you drop my link, dude? That's what we're all here for. That's where I got to where I came from, and with all your guys' help. So thanks again. So let's go back over the charts. Daily, remember, was it 223 low, and we're looking for all-time highs. And I'm more bullish than bearish on the daily. So now let's go to the future. Let's go over and start seeing, or start coming closer to this present time. Right now we're looking at the 4 hour, and the 4 hour. Remember we had talked about our SMI, what it does when it comes up. We ain't worth it. Comes back down. It's going to find itself right here in this consolidation period. Okay, we can see that the oscillator is found its max. Okay, it may be turning around. You can see how it's consolidated right here. It kind of like went sideways. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. See how it's kind of like went sideways right here. So it is kind of going negative. That means we're losing volume here. But let's go see what it's doing over here on the 4 hour with the triple moving averages. So remember on the daily, okay, we were going into a death cross. Well, look at this. On the 4 hour, what's happening? We got the 55 crossing over the 100. We're starting to go bullish. Okay, we're going into a golden cross. Anytime we go into a golden cross, you're going to get the opposite effect than a death cross. So remember when I said a death cross, as every time we get one of these lines to cross, the candle is either a death cross, it's going to pop up, give it its last breath, and then it's going to come back down until we get the final, all three crossings, and then we're going to try to find the new lows. Well, going into a golden cross, we do just the opposite, okay? What it's going to do, it's going to take away that breath, okay, and then go. So see how we got the 55 cross on the 100? I don't expect this candle to close green, okay? I don't expect to get any higher out of this candle, okay? We need to get a little bit of red candle, the pullback, and then see the next jump, and then every time we, each additional crossing after that, it's going to react that same way. So on the 4 hour, I see us going into a golden cross, which is awesome. We're going to go down, drop time frames, and get confirmation on this golden cross and this walkthrough. But right now, you can see that we have finished the zigzag line, that we have found support, and that we are getting ready to create our newer highs. So here we are on the 4 hour. I am bullish. Okay, we're going to golden cross. Everybody loves golden crosses. And, look in the past. Look what we get in golden crosses. Beautiful uptrends. That's all we need. So is that everything to bet the house on? No way, man. Remember, crypto, any kind of investments, especially if you're doing certain, not every investment, but most investments, don't spend money that you cannot roll down your window, in your vehicle and throw the bill out the window and not have to look back twice at it. You know what I mean? Be safe with your investments. So this is just an idea. Remember, you never know. Remember what we're waiting for is, like I said, something that's not going to be in the chart. It's going to come out of the blue and no one's going to expect it, man. It's going to be the greatest day, in XRP's Army's life. So 4 hour, I'm bullish. I need a little more confirmation. Are we going to get a continuous of this crossing? Let's go and drop it down to the hour, okay, and see where we're at. The hour, here we go. We already got the 55 crossing over the 200, going into a golden cross. Okay, so we have one crossing right here. There's one. There's that red candle. Remember I said every time we get a crossing, we're going to get a candle. Let's zoom in so people understand what I'm talking about. Here it goes. What happened? We're going to golden cross. what's going to do? It's going to take away that breath. It's the opposite of the death cross, right? So what happened? We got a red candle. We come over to this crossing right here. You can see we have an undecisive candle here. So we have a wick that pulled back. Okay, we're going to get another one of those as we come back down. So I have a feeling that we may pull back down to that low 33s with this crossing here, and then we can see an upside. And you can see we're already oversold right here. That we need to come down to that belly, right? You can see what's about to happen right here. We're going to come back down to that belly, and then be able to pull right back up, find some support. So we are going negative on the oscillator. This is where I draw. I don't know if I can explain this without going too far. But basically, what I do is I throw these green lines and the red lines. Okay, on the top, same thing I have on the bottom. If you were spread out, if I were to move this up, you'll kind of see. But basically, whenever you see a green line means go. Okay, that's when you want to buy. Obviously you want to buy here. Anytime it comes down, touch this line, you want to buy. When it comes up to the red, you're in a danger area. Okay, that's pretty much when you want to sell. Whether you're on a 1 minute candle or you're on the daily candle. Are you day trading or are you momentum trading? All right. So, but remember, just because it's up in this area, it doesn't mean it's not going to continue. All this means is that we're testing new highs and we're getting ready to run. So this could be a buy-in area as well. Okay, you never know. So that's why I dropped these two lines. Just because you see this line up here on the top, green, that does not mean go. But if you do your DD right, okay, if you want to take a momentum, because at that point, anytime we hit these areas, we're going to start pumping a little bit because it's testing the area, and then we're going to come right back down. So you're able to take advantage of a quick little momentum play. That's why I have those there. So the daily, we can see that we're coming back down. I'm sorry, on the hourly, we come back down and we're getting the crossing. So just watch it. What we need to see. We don't want this to come all the way back down the bottom. We need to catch it at the belly, of the oscillator and go positive. So I feel comfortable that that's what we're gonna see. Okay. What we could do is, no, I'm not gonna do no drawings on this. I love just taking visuals, what I see, and just write them in real quick, and then as time goes, we'll go back and look at it. Hey, what I saw, is that what happened? If it did differently, then I'll go and look and see what it did differently, so I can use that in the future. So breaking down to the hourly, I see that we're doing the 4 hour. So here's our 4 hour. You can see that we're about to go into the cross. Let's drop back down to the hour. The crossing's happening. Okay, let's drop over to the 15-minute where we're at presently on the charts. We are in that golden cross. So we need to find support, which I saw something right here, which we're going to go back. I know I'm going to repeat myself several times here, but this is the stuff that you recognize. People say technicals, technical analysis, people say, oh, sometimes bullshit. You don't know what they're talking about, trying to fortune read. No, it's not. Okay. What I need to know is as much information to stack the dominoes, whether it's going to go up or down. Okay, and I always want to contradict each other. I want to say, hey, just because I got so much positive here, I want to try to get so much negative, just to know which way the market's going. That's all we're getting here. Okay, and this is all numbers here, and all this is representing, instead of us back in the day slamming beans, counting beans and stuff like that. It's a lot easier. We have candles to represent, the market. Okay, and therefore, there's a lot of different things. There's so many different stories happening in this ticker. Most people just look at it, oh, it's just a bunch of lines. No, there's a lot. There's a lot going on here, and like I said, and using the other different indicators really help you. So what I was just about to point out and say, I repeat myself again, look what was about to happen right here. Remember that 55 was about to cross over this 100? That would have put us into death cross. But look at, the legs opened up wide. When I say legs, the two lines just separated. That's showing strength. That's showing volume. When you recognize these little things right here, most people just look at it as two lines. No, by just these two lines, by the 100, finding support going this way, and the 55 continue to go upwards. Okay, that's showing a lot of strength. What that's showing is what the oscillator is representing down here. Okay, let's see if I can lift this up without messing up our charts. See what that's doing? The oscillator's getting ready to go positive. We're getting ready to go bullish. So it's finding support here. What does it always do? Remember, we're down to that belly. The belly always says a lot. It's whether we're going to hold the support here at the belly, continue an uptrend, dude, or we're just going to dump it and come all the way back down, which is, it's good both ways. You get something for a lot cheaper or whatnot. Let me see if I can pull this back down without screwing things up. I know I did this the other day and it didn't work. Where are you? There you are. All right. So going back, so let's if you've been following me here, the daily, we're getting ready to go into death cross, but remember, I feel positive by lower time frames that we're going to kick this 55 and bring it back up again and continue new highs. 4 hours, we're going into a golden cross, looking positive for the upside. Going down to the 1 hour, we are entering that golden cross, doing it naturally, what it naturally does a little pullback, and we're going to get ready to take off again. 15-minute, we are in that golden cross. Okay, it wanted to cross and take a minute to set the watermelon down. That's how I kind of look at these candles. You know what I mean? You're gonna imagine carrying a watermelon. You hold it for so long, you're gonna have to set it down, let it rest for a minute, right? And that's all this did: set it down, and rest for a minute. You don't want it to lose it or drop it. So 15-minute is complementing what we're seeing on the 4 hour, the 1 hour. We're finding support, getting ready to test new highs. So go down lower time frames. I don't know much is here. Remember, whatever you see on YouTube, whoever's out there listening, whatever chart you see on YouTube, remember there is delays. So if you're on the 5 minute or watching a YouTube channel on a 1 minute chart and you're making your plays off of that, that's not very smart at all. There's delays. So, but as we come down to the 5 minute, as we get closer, just kind of see what's happening. It's representing what we're seeing on the 15-minute, how it's fighting the 55 is fighting the 100. We're seeing it there. I just see a slight little pinch, as you can see. We're finding support. The legs are crossing down the SMI, and we're getting ready for some more upside. So, going back to what I was talking about, Bandit, was I feel bullish, man. I wish I could bring up the S&P 500 and overlap that up here on this chart. But I don't want to get too carried away where it takes a lot more work for me to redo the stream or have to restart things. So, but back to the 15. Let's put this back right here, and then I can go back over to chat. So, grateful you're here, buddy. You're always welcome at Bunkers. Thank you, appreciate that, Bandit. And yes, there's delays always. Yeah. So see exactly. So I just like to, Bandit. I like to remind everybody, hey. That remember there is delays out there, so I think ours is about 15 seconds. I think that's what something's happening with it. So what's happening, Mario? Good to see you. Where's old Stinky Spanky? Mario says we as XRP holders know what delays mean best. Very cool. All right. So, but yeah, so other than that, that's what I kind of see, so I'm looking positive. Like I said, we got some things happening at the convention with Bitcoin, a lot of moving pieces in the world that take effect, on the price and the movement of Bitcoin. But I feel, overall, I feel very bullish, We're going to see some numbers that no one's ever have before. Bitcoin, crypto, XRP, we all have catalysts, dude, that we've never had before, that you can't use priors. People say what happens in the past sometimes repeats itself, which it does in patterns and certain things, but they're not 100% guaranteed. We're going to be creating some new patterns, new resistance, new highs, and I feel completely gung-ho about it, so like I always have, anytime we get the dip, just look at, hey, it's on sale. I know I do. Every time, I guarantee you, when it gets to $3, I'm going to be sitting there wishing, damn it, I wish I picked up more back at 233, right? We always do that, right? So when you can, if you have it, just go ahead and buy in more. That's all you have to do, And one day, it'll pay off. I think we'll all be very happy here. So other than that, what else is going on? I guess also part of, let's go back to that monetization. I am new at all this. The studios, first channel we ever had, dude, that was monetized. So I'm still moving things around and trying to adjust things. Our subscriptions, our memberships, those prices are going to drop. We're gonna make it more affordable, more like $1 or $2 a month, just to get your avatar and have some fun. Going to have some members only live chat, live hangout once a month. I really like to get the Discord moving a lot. Therefore, we could bring the Discord online for members only, or even bring us in where, like, even for example, like right now, all willing, but we could have Bandit and I could be in here talking about the chart and what we think and about each other's channel and throwing things out. Let's do it live. Let's be very transparent about it. Mario can come on in. Can't wait to get Mario and Spanky on here together, live in a conversation, not just in chat. Spanky and Annie and I, we got together and did it, and then we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. So I like to bring that a little bit more over here in the community. So the music, I'm working with it. It's so hard. Like I was saying, going back to the being monetized now, we gotta watch what music we put out even more than ever. So working through some tracks, playlists, trying to create something that's it's not looped, but we can at least get 11 or 12 hours of continuous music, nonstop. That's something a little bit of everybody enjoys. So we'll be working on that as well. Go back to chat. Will be cool. Mario says, I personally will be buying strong until $10. Absolutely. Same for Bandit. Speak gold, me and Spank. That would be ugly. That's funny. Cool. But other than that, I'm going to jump back over. I got about hour and 20 minutes left of the market. It closes I'm over here in California, so I'm on the West Coast. So market closes about 1 o'clock my time. So I got to get back to work and do what I'm doing there. But it was cool to jump in. Thanks, Bandit, for hanging out. I hope there'll be a lot more times like this, and there will be in the future. So if I have time later on tonight, I'll jump on. Also, I will be putting out some notifications. I'll figure out some way when I do go live, at least notifies everybody where if they want to come in and just BS, that's fine. They don't have to be sitting here checking on the charts or waiting for me to go live or missing it. So updates and membership price drops, more members only videos, songs, all that stuff we're working on. So it'll get a lot better. But I'm going to go ahead and sign out here, and thanks again for everybody's support, Bandit support and all that stuff. Let's make sure that, let's do it again so people can go ahead and show their love over there. And make sure you stop by Bandit's channel, show support, like, subscribe, and cheers all. I'll talk to you guys all soon. Bye.
Oh, look what you've done. Oh, look. Oh, look what you've done.
When evaluating potential hires for your small business, it's essential you look beyond resumes. Sure, a candidate may appear impressive on paper, but understanding the person is crucial. LinkedIn, the world's largest professional network, provides a complete view of your candidate's skills, experiences, and interests. With LinkedIn's up-to-date data, you can be confident that you really know who you're hiring. Post your free job at linkedin.com/qualify. That's linkedin.com/qualify. Terms and conditions apply.
It takes so long to get back home. 'Cause I know we're gonna fight. That's the way that I know that the love is gone. It takes so long to get back home. 'Cause I know we're gonna fight. That's the way that I know that the love is gone.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. The service is free and provides a report with solutions verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we could recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive.
AT&T is introducing a new guarantee because enough in life isn't guaranteed. Like your voice assistant understanding what you say.
Hey, assistant, add tortillas to my list.
Adding turtles to your list.
Not turtles. Tortillas.
Adding more turtles.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you can depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. That's the AT&T guarantee. AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Terms and conditions apply. Visit AT&T.com/guarantee for details.